Imagine an ultralight electric cruiser that talks to you, plans your routes, and keeps thieves at bay, all while weighing less than most other electric bikes. Meet the Urtopia Carbon 1 Step-Thru, a bike that does all of that. Let's find out more about it in today's review. Hey everyone, Griffin here with Electric Bike Report. If you love e-bikes, you are in the right place. Just make sure to hit that notification bell to get all the latest updates from the e-bike world. Today we're looking at a city cruiser that's definitely not built like the ones you might be used to. This is the Urtopia Carbon 1 Step-Thru, a bike that mixes cutting-edge tech with one of the lightest builds in its class. The very first thing you'll notice is just how light this thing is. I mean, who says e-bikes have to be heavy? Thanks to its Toray carbon fiber frame and fork, the Carbon 1 ST tips the scales at just 41 pounds with the battery installed. And pop that battery out and you're holding just 36.5 pounds. That's less than half the weight of some other electric cruisers that we have tested. And lighter than most purebloods from the city category too. And it makes this bike just refreshingly easy to lift, carry, and maneuver around the city. Now, lightweight is one thing, but Urtopia didn't stop there. They loaded this bike with some of the smartest features we've ever seen on a city cruiser. We're talking voice commands, a built-in speaker, and an LED dot matrix display that can give you turn-by-turn navigation, and even an optional AI assistant that plans routes for you. Now the result is a bike that feels less like a traditional cruiser and more like a connected smart device on two wheels. And while all that tech sounds flashy, the Carbon 1 ST backs it up with highly practical security. The bike includes GPS tracking, audible alarms, and even a fingerprint scanner for unlocking. Whether you're commuting or parking outside a coffee shop, those layered protections help keep your investment safe, something we always like to see when a bike brings this much value to the table. Of course, we can't forget the motor system. The Carbon 1 ST runs a 350 watt rear hub motor with 750 watts of peak output and 60 Newton meters of torque. It's tuned for quiet operation with smooth, steady acceleration off a torque sensor. You'll feel plenty of support for cruising city streets and enough power to handle small and medium-sized hills and even some steeper ones when you need it, just at a bit of a slower pace. That motor is powered by a 353 watt-hour Samsung lithium-ion battery, which is removable and UL certified. Urtopia claims you can stretch up to 80 miles of range depending on how you ride and what assist levels you choose. Stay tuned for range testing details to follow. Charging is also handled by a 4 amp charger, which gets you back on the road quicker than the slow 2 amp chargers we often see. This is a Class 1 or Class 3 e-bike, so pedal assist goes up to a max of 25 miles per hour on this particular ride. There's no throttle, but with the responsive torque sensor system backed by an accelerometer and gyroscope, the assist feels natural and in sync with your effort. All right, now let's talk about components. Braking comes from Tektro 2-piston calipers with 160mm rotors. The drivetrain is an 8-speed Shimano setup, which pairs a 44-tooth chainring with an 11 to 42-tooth cassette, giving you plenty of flexibility whether you're cruising flats or hitting a climb. The Step-Thru frame design makes the bike approachable for a wide range of riders, and you've got 4 color options to choose from. Comfort is handled by an extra-wide 222mm saddle and ergonomic grips. It rolls on Kenda 700x40C tires. The ride strikes a balance between efficiency and cushion with room to size up to 45C tires if you want a bit more comfort. For rider fit, the Carbon 1 ST is designed for heights between 5'1" and 6'1" with a total payload capacity of 240 pounds. I'll talk about fit more later, but just remember it runs more on the smaller side. The LED dot matrix display is clean and anti-glare, sitting right in the stem. From there, you can view battery and speed, but also interact with those smart features that we mentioned earlier, like navigation, audio, and voice control. Combined with the integrated headlight and a battery-powered taillight, this bike is road ready day or night. So to sum it up, the Urtopia Carbon 1 Step-Thru is a city cruiser that stands out with 4 big strengths. Its lightweight carbon frame, robust built-in security, smart tech features, and smooth motor performance. The total package is currently selling for $2,199, but tariffs are still very much a thing right now, so click the link down below for current pricing details. But here's the big question. Does all that innovation actually add up to one of the best city rides that we've tested, or is it just a bunch of cool gadgets on a carbon frame? Let's jump over to testing and find out. All right, let's talk speed. For our speed test, we took the Carbon 1 ST out on a flat, paved section of trail and rode it in every assist level, actually from no assistance all the way up to the bike's turbo mode. We measured performance in both the stock Class 1 setting and the Class 3 mode. All right, so this is gonna be the Class 2 speed test for the Urtopia Carbon 1 ST. So right now going around just about 10 miles per hour, but this is a very, very easy 10 miles per hour, only in 4th gear here. Lightweight nature of the bike does make it nice and pleasant. Let's go ahead and bump up that assist a little bit. And a little melodic intro to the next level. So not a ton of motor power here. We'll talk a little bit about the default power settings. Helping me go a little bit faster on a fairly similar effort as we climb about 11.5 miles per hour. Just trying to meet the bike where it's wanting to take me, as it is a torque sensor after all. So you gotta give it a little bit of muscle, but I don't want to have it shift to me doing too much of the work. Let's go ahead and move up to the middle level now. Yeah, this is one of those things where, I describe a lot of different e-bike motors as some you can kind of feel give you that push. Some just feels like it takes the weight off. This is kind of, so far, taking like the weight off a little bit, just making it feel even lighter, even easier to keep going. You see I'm climbing this speed pretty simply up to about 16.1 miles per hour. And a little bit more too, about 16.5. Let's go ahead and move it into 3 though. Now that one I did feel a little bit of a surge ahead. That one had a little bit more of a noticeable jolt to it. But it's climbing pretty easily here. Getting upwards of that 20 mile per hour Class 2 limit. Maxed out the gear, I'm in 8th gear now. Going just into the limit. Let's go ahead and hold up for that turbo mode, see what that does. Rocket taking off. Yeah, overall it's starting to meet the limit of that 20 mile per hour, so yeah, pretty good smooth engagement. Let's go ahead and run it again at that 25 mile per hour threshold. All right, so change things over now to Class 3 settings. Already in the first level of pedal assist. I'd say things are going pretty similarly so far. Still about 11.5 miles per hour. This one's a little bit lighter compared to no assist at all. Getting upwards of maybe about 12.3 miles per hour. Let's go ahead and move into second level of assist here. This one does feel like a little bit more noticeable of a surge ahead as compared to last time when I said it just felt like it made the bike even lighter. I think we're getting a little bit more power here. It's pretty easy overall to push along. It's responding pretty naturally. See the amount of pressure that I'm putting into the pedals though. Still whisper quiet, not hearing that motor at all, which is really nice. About 18.7 miles per hour, 19.1, 19.5. Let's move things into level 3. All right, maxed out the gearing. I'm in my 8th and final gear. Just sailing right along. Upwards of 22 miles per hour. Yeah, cruising pretty steadily at about 22.5 miles per hour. Not fully getting to that 25 max limit, but let's try the boost. Hold that down, let that rocket take off. Not feeling a whole lot of noticeable difference here either. Yeah, topping off around 23 miles per hour. Push a little bit harder, see what that does. I think overall it's kind of hanging right around that 23 mile per hour mark, so yeah, overall pretty good. Smooth and quiet engagement, but let's break down everything back in the studio. All right, so starting with Class 1 results, the bike cruised at about 10.7 miles per hour with no pedal assist. PAS1 nudged that up slightly to 11.7, while PAS2 jumped to 16.4. By PAS3, we were holding 19.9 miles per hour, and turbo mode topped out at the same 19.9. It's more about a quicker launch off the line for that one. Now, once we switched to Class 3, those numbers climbed even higher. The assist still starts at 10.7 with no motor, but PAS1 carried us to 12.3, PAS2 bumped the pace to 19.1, and PAS3 stretched all the way to 22.6. Turbo mode again matched PAS3 at that same speed. Now, what impressed me most wasn't just the top end numbers, it's how smoothly the motor engaged. The torque sensor responds right away. Push harder on the pedals and the bike instantly rewards you with more output. Paired with Shimano's drivetrain, the gearing felt practical and reliable. And thanks to Urtopia's app, riders can customize each assist level. Personally, I'd bump PAS1 from its stock 15% closer to 25% for a more noticeable kick, while the 58% and 100% of the other two modes were great starting points. But overall, this bike delivers steady cruising power with smooth, quiet performance. Now let's move into range, because even a lightweight e-bike only matters if it can take you where you need to go. Now, bikes that carry the lightweight label often come with smaller batteries. That can limit distance, but depending on how efficient the system is, you may still end up with practical mileage. The Urtopia Carbon 1 ST is a great example of that. We ran 2 range tests using its Class 2 settings. The first was in Max Assist, PAS3, and the second was in PAS2, the mid-power mode. Now, the lowest assist level technically works, but in our experience, it didn't add too much. It mostly just takes a bit of the edge off on climbs in the stock settings, so we focused on the 2 settings riders are more likely to use. In Max Assist, the Carbon 1 ST lasted for 24.7 miles, and then in PAS2, it stretched to 35 miles. Now, that's not a huge gap between modes, but it tells us something important about the system's efficiency. When we compared it against similar bikes in our database, models with 300 to 400 watt-hour batteries and 250 to 500 watt hub motors, the Urtopia actually stacked up well. On the minimum power test, it used about 10 watts per mile, close to the category average of 9. But remember, that's using the bike's mid-power. Most everything else in the database was using the true lowest power setting of PAS1. And in the max power test, where all bikes are going full power to 20 miles per hour, the Carbon 1 ST actually stood out. It used 14.3 watts per mile compared to the 16.8 average we normally see. So what does that mean in the real world? Just put simply, the Carbon 1 ST's low weight gives it a clear efficiency edge. It squeezes more range out of a relatively small 353 watt-hour battery than most of its peers. Now, whether the total mileage is enough depends on your riding needs, but from a power to mileage perspective, the bike performs better than expected. And when it's time to plug back in, you won't be waiting too long. Thanks to the included 4 amp charger, the 9.8 amp hour battery can fully recharge in about 2.5 hours. Plus, since the battery is removable, it's easy to bring it inside for charging at home or at the office. All right, now let's talk hills. Our official hill test takes place at a climb we call the Devil's Backbone. It's a half a mile long with an average grade of 8% and about 217 feet of elevation gain. It's a tough course that puts every e-bike we test through its paces. Let's send it over to our dedicated hill tester, Justin, to see how it did.
All right, we are out on the Urtopia Carbon 1 ST, super lightweight cruiser in turbo mode, doing the pedal test at the Devil's Backbone, and got up to about 16 miles an hour before this first hill. 7th gear, gonna downshift, texted about 5th here to get to the cadence that I like. Going about 11 miles per hour. They've got a super unique display. It even talks to you a little bit. So a lot of cool stuff on this bike. And we're gonna see how good it does hill climbing. Back to 13 miles an hour. Kind of staying in that 5th gear. I'm gonna go down 1 to 4th. So 9 miles an hour. Does not give me decimals. And I think likely that's probably where we're gonna bottom out, right there at 9 miles per hour. I'm gonna downshift one more time before this turn. And we'll see what we get back up to before we hit that lamppost there. Right at 9, 10 miles per hour in 3rd gear. Try 4th. Yeah, so right about 10 miles per hour in 4th gear. And I will say this bike feels incredibly smooth, responsive, ultra lightweight, obviously. Not a powerhouse. Not gonna push me up the hill. I'm gonna have to pedal a little bit. But I'm not pedaling too, I mean, I'm definitely more than soft pedal. Kind of more about what I do on a mid-drive, I'd say. Motor is very quiet, almost silent. If I wasn't going 9 or 10 miles an hour right now, I'd almost question if I have a motor from a noise level. But I do, I'm definitely getting helped up this hill. I'll let you listen. I don't think you're gonna hear anything. Yeah, so again, doubtful you're hearing anything because I'm not hearing much at all. So just as the overall smooth feeling that I get, not gonna be a barn burner, but it is getting up this hill nicely in 4th gear, and we'll see how it does as we cross the finish line at 9 miles per hour.
The Carbon 1 ST reached the top in 2 minutes and 37 seconds, holding an average speed of 11.5 miles per hour. Now that's one of the slower times we've recorded on this course, but here's the thing, for a lightweight city cruiser with a 350 watt nominal, 750 watt peak motor, and 60 Newton meters of torque, just getting to the top without stalling out is the real achievement. The Carbon 1 ST kept a steady pace all the way, and the motor never overheated or faded. And that performance really matches its purpose. This isn't a bike designed to sprint up extreme grades. It's built to make everyday rides easier and more enjoyable. If you're facing something like San Francisco's infamous 27% Lombard Street, this may not be the bike for you. But for more routine hills, commutes, neighborhood climbs, or the occasional steep section, the Carbon 1 ST has enough muscle to get you up without drama. And if you need that extra push, turbo mode can give you about 10% more help. I found in my personal hill testing at a secondary location near our office that it could make hill climbing a little bit easier. Just keep in mind that leaning on turbo might drain the battery a little bit faster. But bottom line, while it's not a mountain goat, the Carbon 1 ST delivers dependable, steady hill performance for the kind of riding it's meant to do. Next up, let's take a look at braking. All of our brake tests are performed the same way. I personally bring the bike up to 20 miles per hour, apply the brakes firmly but under control while we come to a full stop, then we measure the distance from the moment the brakes are engaged, and we repeat that 3 times to get an average. On the Urtopia Carbon 1 ST, braking is handled again by a set of 2 piston calipers with 160mm rotors, and that's a pretty standard setup for lightweight e-bikes. In our testing, the bike came to a stop at an average distance of 23 feet and 9 inches. For comparison, similar bikes in this category averaged about 23 feet 4 inches. So this bike was just slightly longer than average, but still well within a safe and effective stopping range. So long as we don't pass that last cone, we are happy. For everyday city riding, I found the performance reliable and predictable, even at my weight of 235 pounds. Now, bigger rotors would add a little more bite, especially for riders closer to the bike's 240-pound payload limit. But bottom line, the Carbon 1 ST brakes are plenty safe. It's just one area where I'd like to see Urtopia maybe go a bit more robust in the future on the Carbon 2. All right, let's shift gears and talk about what it's actually like to ride the Carbon 1 ST, and no better way to do that than from the saddle. So I kind of like it when a brand starts carving out their differentiator, like what they want to bring to the table, in the greater marketplace. And what I really like about Urtopia here is they definitely are showing that commitment to carbon frames. They have across their lineup like a carbon folding model, your standard commuter, and even this one with the city cruiser. It's just kind of cool to see a brand that's really trying to specialize somewhere, giving some carbon options. Again, it's a little bit more affordable than we typically see for a carbon frame. And again, it's just not like there's a lot of people making carbon city cruisers these days. So it's just really nice because I have told people like 1,000 times, when it comes to e-bikes, they weigh more, you get used to the weight, don't let that scare you too much. But it's also undeniably nice when you have something that is not so heavy and bulky. So, the 41 pounds of this bike with everything on it, the fender's battery, it's just really nice. It feels noticeably lighter on the roads and just has really nice handling. For a lot of cruisers, traditionally, like American style cruisers have really long wheelbases, the type of things that kind of take wide turns. This one's a much more narrow wheelbase. It feels just very, along with that lighter frame, it just feels very playful, feels very snappy. The 720mm handlebar, it's not the type of thing that's twitchy by any means, but it's the type of thing, if you need to do like a tight U-turn, if you slow down, you could actually do it on a road just this wide. Makes it feel really nice. Kind of like going into the corners and things like that. And speaking of cornering, for a Step-Thru frame, it's, again, one of those benefits of carbon. It's pretty rigid and pretty stiff. There's not a lot of flex or wobble to it. they've done a good job crafting this design. It's got that 18-inch step over height. Still retains a little bit of, frame material going across the gap there, giving it more of like an A shape instead of just a traditional V, but it feels confident. It feels really nice. Now, part of that is also the tires. These Kenda tires, 700 by 40C. Good width, it's about, I think it's like 1.6 inches or something like that wide. It's overall pretty stable and solid platform. The tread pattern on it, it's kind of like listed as all terrain. It's like very much on the light side though, so it can handle, those finer crushed gravel paths, the type of things you'd get on rail trails. You can do some of that. I'm not gonna say go full gravel riding with this setup, especially like the handlebar and things like that. But I mean, overall, it's a pretty versatile tire. It's doing a good job just out here on the road though. It's not loud, it's not sluggish. And if you want even more width, I believe it says that the fork can accommodate up to a 45C, so you can expand that a little bit more. Now, in terms of the fit overall, again, this is something that's built as for riders 5'1" to 6'1". I am 6'1". I currently have the seat post maxed out. There's about 5 inches of adjustment there. I'd need another inch or so to be entirely comfortable on it. I think for a cruiser style where you're kind of like more laid back, I'm never like in the zone, like leaning forward, trying to charge hard. It's definitely doable with enough motor power to ride this without getting too tired or fatigued, in your legs. But I would still advise people to say like 5'10", 5'9", somewhere around there. It's probably like a better ideal max height, but if you're 6'1", you can get away with it so long as you're not looking to push really hard with your legs or you have a ton of hills you have to deal with on the daily. Now again, the ride quality itself overall is pretty nice. If it does fit you, it is kind of nice too that you can raise the handlebar. You can get some spacers on there. I believe you got about an inch or inch and a quarter or so that you can kind of raise that up to kind of better find your ideal hand placement, but overall it's pretty nice. There are a couple of things I think that could change though to make it a little bit better. This display here does have the headlight in there. It's nice and bright, but you can't tilt or angle that in any way, so you can't really control the headlight angle if you want it to be something a little bit different, a little bit more down towards the road or a little bit higher up. You're just kind of fixed where it's at. And there are a couple of touch things I think that could be improved overall. It's kind of hard to see, but the control pad here, it's actually kind of like fixed spot in the handlebar. So if I ever need to hit that right side, I got to come all the way over, kind of like runs into, my first knuckle there. So it type of thing I wish I could bring it a little bit more to the left, but at the end of the day, it's largely first world complaints here. And then of course, just the overall ride itself. I just can't say enough how nice it is to have that lightweight feel, but especially combined with a nice and quiet motor, it does just kind of make this a much more simple, much more pleasant city style cruiser. Just something you just hop on and go. It moves surprisingly fast on the flats, and it's very capable on hills. Now, we already showed you the hill test. It's not a hill dominator by any means, but it's still very capable to climb just any reasonable hill that you're going to have nearby. So overall, just very impressed with the total package of what you're getting with the Carbon one, and there's even some ways you can enhance it as well. Let's talk about that back in the studio. So let's wrap up a few odds and ends thoughts on ride quality. One of the first upgrades I'd recommend is adding the rear rack. It can carry up to 33 pounds, which makes the bike a bit more useful for commuting or errands without weighing it down. And for visibility, I like that you do get a battery-powered rear light, and it works fine, but personally, I'd love to see Urtopia hardwire a tail light into the main system. That way it runs right off perhaps the seat stays and of course the main battery, instead of relying on separate charging or, if I forget to turn it on. And where the bike really stands apart though is in its security. You get the GPS tracking, audible alarms, motion alerts, geofencing, and fingerprint unlock. The first year of connectivity to the 4G system is free, and then after that it's just $39 annually. And that feels like a fair trade for the peace of mind that it gives. So as for voice commands, they are fun when it works to show off to friends, but many are unnecessary. You can push a button to increase power, or push a button and then tell it to increase power. Technically, it adds a step, although some controls like adjusting volume can only be done on the fly with voice commands instead of stopping to get out your phone. So there is some practical function there as well. There is a $9.99 a month AI GPT subscription that you can get to have your bike get some smart planning and other features that you can dictate with your voice. Like most AI things, it's pretty cool, but it's a work in progress, like not knowing that it could send me on our dedicated bike path and instead suggesting surface streets. It's cool that it's there, but we'll need more refining down the road to be 100% reliable, and I suspect that it will come in time. And then finally, let's just talk about its value. At just a little over $2,000, you're getting a full carbon frame, smart connectivity, and an impressively light platform. Sure, a few of the voice commands and AI route planning features feel a bit gimmicky today, but as the tech matures, this platform is only going to get better.
All right, so I wanted to take a moment to walk you through the Urtopia app because it's actually one of the better app integrated into like an e-bike experience that I've used. So on this main home screen and within the app itself, it'll just give you some basic, like your weather up top. Over here, you've got your connected devices in the middle and some user guides down below, as well as some of your recent trips that were logged. So let's go ahead and open up the main bike interface. Now from here, this is where you get some access to some of the 4G capabilities, some things that you can do without your bike actually turned on. So if you need the beep feature, just kind of help see where it is that you parked it, you can start that beep going off, give you a better idea of where you can go find your bike. This is also an alarm mode, so if you put that into alarm mode, that just means so if this bike moves or is touched, it's going to do that. It's going to wake up and start making a ruckus, making it a little bit harder for anyone to just run off with that subtly. So kind of nice security features built in there. So obviously I powered it on here and not from depressing the thumbprint scanner right here, but you have those options as well. And like I said, just lots of different ways you can tailor it. So let's go ahead. You can look like different levels of volume control, even the vibration functions. So you can affect, the control pad here, how much feedback that you get there if you want to move that up, down, or disable it altogether. Now the sounds is where things can get kind of fun because there's a lot of very distinct noises that you can use. You can tailor everything from the sound of the bell to something like a traditional ringing. You can change that up to make it a little bit more game sounding, or you can make it even, a dog barking. Whatever you think is going to get people's attention the best when out on the roads. But you can affect the power on sound, the sound of when you activate turbo mode, the alarm, and even the sound of the changing assist level. Now when you go back out and look into speakers, so this is where you can actually connect a device that will play music from your phone or like a podcast or something like that and coming out of the speakers here. So when you have that set up, you can then go over into your favorite podcasts, like the one that John and I have with the Weekly Recharge.
Priority and Trek.
Yeah, play on that. Then all of a sudden you can be blasting. You can be blasting your podcast that way if you don't want to go the headphone route and have something obstructing your ears. Now over in the advanced settings is where you can again alter a few different things, including most importantly like your speed, perhaps 20 mile per hour or 25 mile per hour limit, as well as change it up to be in mile kilometer, Fahrenheit, Celsius, things like that. This is where you can also access the fingerprint to get that set up. You can tune the bike's preferences as well, going from eco mode. This is the default here with 15% power, 58 in comfort, and then sport all the way up to 100. But you can again raise those up or down, make it a little bit more to your liking. The next thing I think worth talking about here would be the geofencing. So if you want to, you can actually set up an electronic fence, kind of limit the operating boundaries of the bike, make sure that it won't operate outside of a certain radius that you establish. So again, just more layers of security, just really good things to have. Then from there you can get access to just some of the about features and whatnot. So there is also a community function where other Urtopia riders can upload their most recent rides. And then you have easy access to shopping if you want to look through more of the Urtopia library, as well as just a dashboard just kind of showing you as a rider, some achievements you can unlock, things like that. So again, overall it's a pretty impressive and detailed app, and it's really got some nice functionality just built right in.
All right, let's wrap things up with my overarching pros and cons, and starting with the positives. Now the big one is weight, or maybe the little one. The Urtopia Carbon frame keeps this bike incredibly light and easy to maneuver, so whether you're lifting it, parking it, or just cruising around town, it's very nice. And then there's the security, the GPS tracking, audible alarms, and even the fingerprint scanner. This bike does more to protect your investment than most others in its class. And then of course on the tech side, you've got voice commands, built-in speakers with turn-by-turn navigation, even an optional AI assistant for planning routes. It feels more like a smart device than a typical city cruiser. And the motor is another highlight. It is quiet, smooth and steady, with enough power for cruising, hills, and everyday riding. Handling is also a major win. The Step-Thru frame feels relatively stiff and stable, while the low weight makes it quicker and more playful than most cruisers. And then finally style, with 4 sharp color options like the glacier blue, cream, matte black, or charcoal gray, it's gonna be a head turner. And now for the drawbacks. The adjustability is a little limited. The display, control pad, and headlight are all fixed in place. You can add spacers to raise up the handlebar though, so at least you get that. And while the bike is technically rated for riders from 5'1" to 6'1", in practice, it's best suited for folks up to about 5'9" or so. So what's the final word on the Urtopia Carbon 1 Step-Thru? At its core, this is a refreshingly light and enjoyable cruiser. The carbon frame keeps it nimble, the handling feels sharp, and the motor runs quietly with smooth engagement. It has enough power to make cruising on flats fun, while still giving you the support you need to tackle hills without stress. Now, the smart features are what many people will notice first, and there's a lot packed in here. Some of it feels genuinely useful, like voice commands, navigation, and app-based customization all have good function, but a few functions lean more toward novelty, but the nice part is you can embrace them or ignore them as much as you want. The security package is a real standout. Between the fingerprint unlock, GPS tracking, and audible alarms, it's one of the most theft-conscious e-bikes that we have, and that's real peace of mind when you're riding or parking it in the city. Fit is best for riders within its sweet spot, but for those who line up with its geometry, the Carbon 1 ST delivers a classic cruiser ride wrapped in a very modern tech-forward package. It's a unique blend of classic comfort focus and new age connectivity. Happy riding, and let us know down in the comments if you have any questions or if there's anything we missed in this review of the Urtopia Carbon 1 ST. I'm Griffin with Electric Bike Report. We'll see you on the next ride.